So, welcome back for another exciting episode of Tiger Bytes. We're here with my friend David Martin, and today we're going to talk about COVID. And I know that's the thing a lot of folks don't really, we want to forget about COVID,
Sure.
but COVID had some implications, strong implications for how we as professors did our jobs
Mm.
and created some interesting challenges with regard to teaching. But there's this old saying about necessity is the mother of invention. It also drove some creativity, and I'll just briefly share something I did, and then I want to talk about how you managed hospitality internships during COVID. So, as you know, there was directives saying that we should try to minimize the time we spend in face-to-face
Mhm.
contact with students. And at the time, I had a research design seminar
Mm.
where we would typically have a 3 hour class. The first half of class, I would lecture about whatever the topic of the day was. Maybe it's surveys, maybe it's archival data. We would take a break, and then we'd come back and talk about the students' projects.
Mhm.
And so, with this directive to minimize class time, I said, well, geez, maybe I could record the lecture part, let them watch that online through Canvas, and then the face to face time would just be devoted to talking about their projects. And so, not only did that allow us to meet the directive, but it actually had a couple of pretty tangible peripheral benefits.
Yeah.
One was historically, by the time I got done talking for an hour and a half about research design or whatever, or survey design, or
Right.
my brain was
Yeah. Yeah,
cooked.
super exciting stuff, right?
And I would come back from the break, and the students would not really be getting the best of me in discussing their projects. So with this format, we start right off the bat in person talking about their
Mm.
projects. They've got me at my best. I
Sure.
can give them
That's interesting.
the best possible feedback. I really didn't expect that,
Wow.
but it was true. So the other benefit that I didn't expect was the students would watch the video on regular speed, but then later in the semester they could come back and revisit these lectures, and maybe they do it on one and a half
Mhm.
speed, or maybe they read the transcript so they don't have to spend as much time on it. But from a feedback perspective, they did tell me that was incredibly useful to be able to go back. The lecture's not a one off where I sit in the room and then,
Right.
maybe I retain certain things, maybe I don't, but I can go back and watch these videos. So after the pandemic was over, I kept using the videos for the lecture portion of that seminar.
Yeah, that's really interesting that they enjoyed being able to go back and revisit
Well, I
those
don't mean they
lectures.
enjoyed it,
Well,
but they benefited from it.
yeah, so they got enjoyment out of the benefit, maybe eventually, right? But yeah, and I think one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten from when I've transitioned some material, especially lectures, to online, is the ability to be able to searchable. Right, so
Oh,
like
right.
keywords, so
Yeah.
they're able, so they know that, hey, I've said in lecture this is a really important concept, or this definitely will be on the exam, or it's a keyword in the book, and so they want to see if I've also talked about that in the lecture. And it's very easy for them to search for that text. And oh, he did. He spent 3 slides and 20
Mm,
minutes talking about this one paragraph from the textbook. I
right.
probably should make sure I understand this. Or if I don't, I could reach out to the professor and ask a question about it. So I've received kind of similar feedback as well.
So, one of your responsibilities for a long time has been supervising hospitality internships.
Yeah.
And Auburn's got an incredible hospitality program,
Thanks.
very highly regarded, including at places like Augusta National.
Right.
And you've placed people in internships at all sorts of incredible five-star facilities. But COVID created a curveball in the sense that, okay, an internship traditionally is in person. Now all of a sudden we've got to figure out a plan B here. So what did that look like?
Yeah, it was a really interesting time because the hospitality industry, if you weren't following the news at all, shut down,
Right.
right? And especially hotels,
Sure.
and the term petri dish was used oftentimes with hotels in general. And so we had students that so all of our students were required to do internships as part of the program. So they graduate with a minimum of 1,000 hours. 600 of those hours are prerequisite hours, and then 400 hours as part of the official internship class,
That's
which
a
I
lot of
oversaw.
hours.
It's a lot. It's
Yeah.
relatively standard across most hospitality programs, or somewhere in that range. But so the students are working hard. So we had kind of two balls in the air that we had to deal with. One was students were not able to get their prerequisite hours done
Right.
because they hospitality shut down, and then we had the students that needed the internship class, which they typically take their last semester in order to graduate. And so we had a lot of individual conversations. There are some students that kind of put that off and maybe took a few other classes because they realized that even after they graduated, like what were they going to do? Because the industry was still going to be shut down. But for the students that did want to take that class, we had to pivot, and so I had to essentially develop an online class.
Mm.
But what was unique about that is that the internship class is not a lecture based class,
Right.
right? So there was
Right.
no existing
No
material for
content.
me
Yeah.
to record and
Right.
manipulate in that way. So I had to very quickly come up with what I thought would be a very good class for them that would add value to their degree. It wouldn't just be checking a box. And this is a 4,000 level senior level class. Um, so I really kind of was racking my brain about what am I, how am
Yeah.
I going to skin this cat? And I realized that what I really needed to do was listen to the students and ask them about what would be value added for them at this point and what were their concerns outside of the immediate COVID stuff.
Sure.
And how could we fashion a class that would allow them to develop themselves? And so the idea or premise I came up with was it was going to be project based and team based, and we were going to have team leaders
Mm.
for each of those teams, and they would have to be elected by their peers. So there would be an elected team leader. They could be replaced throughout the semester. So there could be a
A
mutiny, if you
coup.
will, a
Yeah.
coup if the rest of the group felt like maybe they weren't doing a good
Right.
job being leaders. And we came up with a project that so I asked, all right, we're going to come up with a project, and my parameters was that it had to be something that would be kind of used to give back. What and who do we give back to? I don't
Mm.
know. You define that. But the project that we're going to work on this semester, the end result has to be an idea or a concept that we're going to give back. So the concept they had was they called it Obby Aid, and it
Mm.
was basically a food truck that would be used by the culinary students in the hospitality program to help out during disasters. So the idea behind it was, a storm hit, a tornado, anywhere in the SEC footprint, that truck would show up manned by students with a
Right.
faculty supervisor, and we called it Hugs and Hamburgers. We'd show up and we cook food for first responders, for people. So very similar to what kind of already happens with like the Red Cross,
Sure.
but student run. And so then we formed teams around all the different things that had to happen. So we had a design team,
Mm.
and they had to reach out to companies that manufactured food trucks. We had a safety team. They had to reach out to university a risk assessment and go through all of that stuff. We had a marketing and branding team. So if you also think about all that retail space on the side of the truck that we
Right.
could use to
Right.
sell for sponsorships. And so we had a marketing team, and they actually reached out to different hospitality companies and food production companies about would you want to do this? We had an operations team, and they came up with a great idea where you have three phases. You have pre-departure, you have on-site, and then you have post-departure. And so going from cradle to grave of, okay, a tornado hit in Tuscaloosa. We want to be there by noon tomorrow
Mm.
here. And so we designed all the checklists. We went through all of the operations. We had SOPs, we had safety standard, and all these teams had to then collaborate together. We also had a design team. So they were coming up with the renderings of the drawing and square footage and estimating, okay, if we add this piece of equipment, we can now serve an additional 500 meals without having to be refueled. And all of those things came together. So engaging project. The students absolutely loved it. They went bonkers about this, and they came up with an amazing uh, deliverable of handing that off and being like, here's what we want to do with this food truck to help other people that are in need. And so, of all the classes that I've taught outside of the brewing sciences program, and that's a very different audience than
Yeah.
undergrads, that's probably one of the best received classes that I've ever developed. And it was on the fly, literally racking my brain trying to figure out what we're going to do.
What's the status of that idea at the moment?
So it's something that we want to look at. We opened this new building 2 years ago, so we've been a
Right.
little busy,
Right, a little busy.
in doubled numbers in that time, essentially. So we've been a little busy, but also at that time, I was transitioning from assistant professor to associate professor, and so that gives me more time, or that I should say that was kind of a little bit before. So it gives
Mm.
me more time to work on these type of kind
A
of
little more
passion projects.
discretion.
Yeah,
Not more
exactly.
time,
Yeah,
really, but
yeah,
discretion.
yeah. Good point. And so that is something that's still on my radar that I really want to work with the university and develop out. Sounds like a great idea, right? On
Yeah,
paper. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I would think it wouldn't be too much of a challenge to get some donors behind something like
I think
that.
I think so. I've never approached any donors
Yeah.
officially, and obviously that's something that would happen kind of above my head in the powers order. I think that from a risk safety standpoint, obviously, I think there'd be a lot more work to do there,
Right.
obviously. But could you imagine where CNN shows up to do some footage in a place that's had a hurricane or tornado, and in the background there's this Auburn branded food truck with Auburn students
Right.
feeding meals to first responders? I mean, that type of marketing and output, I don't think could be matched by very much.
No, I mean, you couldn't put a price on that.
That's
I
right.
mean, obviously, the main benefit is you'd be feeding people.
Of course, absolutely.
The
But you
side
can
benefit
you
would
can
be
do more than one
tremendous.
thing at the same time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you kept any of that emphasis in subsequent um, years of the internship, or did you totally revert back to the traditional?
So I didn't revert back 100%. So I think what I've done is I've taken some of the successful elements of the project and applied them to the internship class, but just in a little bit different way. So one of the things our students have to do during the internship, and they're working basically full time, right? So I want to be conscious of that. Very similar to the brewing science students that are doing their own thing.
Sure.
Um, in that I allow the students have to do what I call a managerial project. And instead of working with me on that project to develop what that is and what the output is, they actually have to work with either their manager or somebody within the company they're interning with to develop a project. And they have to produce a tangible result that benefits the
Mm.
company or somebody the company has designated as needing a benefit. And so then they send that to me for final approval to oversee that. Um, but what I've found is really unique about that is students maybe, let's say a student's doing an internship in the rooms division at a five-star resort. Well, they end up doing a project in a completely different department. And what that means is that they're getting exposure to how that department is run, its operations. So in a way, they're almost doubling the amount they're learning from that
Mm.
internship because now they have to do this very detailed project. So they might be in the rooms division, but now they're working with HR on a employee benefit change to employee benefits. So they may develop a survey to survey all the employees in the whole hotel about, hey, if we made changes to employee benefits, what would be the most impactful for you? They help gather that data, process that data with HR, and then even may help roll out those changes in benefits. So we've had interns that have literally helped change company policy and benefits
Yeah,
for
wow.
all the employees, and it's been really successful. And what's interesting is that I spend more time having to sell the companies on this type of project than the students.
Mm.
And because the companies are just like, oh, well, we'll just have them rewrite a standard operating procedure. It's like, well, okay, there's some benefit in that, and I can understand that. But don't underestimate what the students are capable of. Challenge them, push them. What's a really high level project that you haven't been able to execute because you're so
Mhm.
busy in your hotel or your restaurant or whatever organization they're with that you think could really have a big benefit for you as a company or for your employees? And I'm always shocked at the I'm always very proud, shocked, amazed at the quality of the projects. When the companies engage with the student in that way, the projects end up being absolutely phenomenal.
That's a great example of how we all hated COVID. You
Yeah,
know, we have to stipulate that.
yeah, I wasn't a fan.
No, but it led us to do a lot of things creatively
Yeah.
on the fly that have had implications in a positive way in the post-COVID era.
Yeah, I think, listen, everybody has a different approach to things that happen in their lives, right? And I think it's important to try to recognize that no matter how kind of bad the situation is, there's always something to learn,
Right.
right? And we've had that experience in our personal
Yeah,
lives.
absolutely.
I make a joke. So right before COVID hit, so Auburn didn't close down until a little bit into the semester. If I don't remember how many weeks into the semester, but it was before they transitioned. But we were actually at Children's Hospital over the Christmas break and going into
Mhm.
COVID for 54 days with my son.
Oh, wow.
And so I started the semester, the joke I make is I started the semester teaching my class from the basement of Children's Hospital. So they literally set up a Zoom
Mm,
Panopto thing in the basement of Children's Hospital so I could teach my managerial accounting class, which is everybody's favorite class, by the way, to take at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. And so basically doing it via Zoom. So the students were in the classroom and I was being projected
right.
on the screen. And then we came back, and I think we were only home with William for maybe 3 weeks, and then the university shut down. So I started the semester off teaching my class from the basement of Children's Hospital. I ended my class teaching from the basement of my house, right? And so that's kind of the joke that I make. So I had a little bit of a head start, if you will, but certainly with the internship class, that was as soon as we heard we were being to going fully remote. And I kind of knew it was coming that all of
Yeah.
a sudden these students that had even had signed internship contracts were going to be sent back home or sent back to Auburn. So it was already percolating in the back of my mind. But a lot of companies, they didn't want to close, especially hospitality companies. So they did wait to the last minute. And so for the students that had signed an internship contract and they were just kind of being told like, well, we don't know, wait, we don't know, wait, we don't know, wait. And then they went dark or whatever. It's like the person that they were talking to got laid off. And so they weren't even getting a response. We had to move very quickly to address that and minimize the impact for our students.
Great. Well, I appreciate you being here
Yeah.
and enjoyed hearing about how you on the fly created a excellent internship experience. Um, it's kind of an interesting aspect of the human condition, I think, that under crisis we can be so creative, but wouldn't it be great if we could have that same level of insight and creativity without a crisis forcing it?
That motivation is hard, right? It's hard. You
Yeah,
can't simulate it.
right,
You
exactly.
hear that old like coaches talk about that all the time. Like you can't simulate game time
Right.
situations, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's some truth to that. To be perfectly honest, and I you would hope that we could figure out a way where it doesn't take a hurricane or tornado or a significant somebody in our lives being medically fragile to motivate us in that way. But maybe that's the human condition, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we all had our druthers, right, we'd be sitting on the couch eating pork rinds and watching TV, right? I mean, or a lot of us. I think there are very, very, very few people. There's some of them that exist, right? But it's pretty rare to find somebody that doesn't have to have some type of outside force to truly motivate them
Right.
in that way to really get them off the couch and be super creative like that.
Absolutely.
But the people ones that are, I think, are the ones that we all know maybe by name
Tom
already.
Brady comes to mind.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, right. And so your Patriots bias is showing through, Dave, right?
I'm an Eagles fan.
So, but it is in a way unfortunate that we've had to do that. But I think that's how a lot of people respond, right? But
Yeah.
but I'm always amazed at how adaptable and strong people are. They don't realize it
Right.
until they're put into that
Right.
situation, and then all of a sudden they have this well of strength that comes from wherever that comes from. It comes from, and they're able to adapt and adjust and to figure it out. And I think that's an important message maybe for our students too,
Absolutely.
right? As they go through life and they're faced with challenges, like, listen, I know it's hard, I
Resilience.
know it's difficult, but I promise you can do this. And that
Absolutely.
always reminds me of students. I'll hear a student say, and again, I go back to the managerial accounting class. They'll say something like, "Oh, well, I'm just too dumb to figure this out," or
Mm,
whatever. And I absolutely hate hearing that. And I typically stop class and listen. You are not. You got into Auburn University. You're a
right.
student. You are not dumb. I just have to do a better job of figuring out a way to communicate this information to you so that you can retain it and to apply it in a real life situation. And so that's on me, not on you. It's not an intelligence
Right.
thing. People are very, very capable, uh, but they just have to figure out a way to tap into that strength.
Absolutely. Well, we are out of time on Tiger Bites today. Once again, thanks, David Martin, for joining
Oh,
us.
thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
My pleasure.
Hi, my name is Betsy Gilbertson. I'm an instructional designer and I've been creating engaging and impactful learning experiences for over 25 years. I've actually been talking about how to leverage the power of videos in education since 2008. I am happy for the opportunity to share the types of videos we currently use in Auburn Online and why they're still important to incorporate into online learning today, and how we will be using those in the future. We have several purposes for videos. Videos have become one of the most powerful tools in modern education, and here's why. It provides instructor presence. One of the key benefits of using video is that it helps establish an instructor's presence in an online or even a hybrid learning environment. When students can see and hear their instructor, it creates a sense of connection that can sometimes be missing in online courses. Videos allow instructors to share their personality, tone, and expertise in a way that fosters engagement and trust. We can also do demonstrations. Videos are perfect for demonstrating complex concepts or step-by-step processes, whether you're teaching a new software tool, explaining a scientific experiment, or walking through a problem-solving technique. Videos allow us to visually model what is being conveyed. This makes it easier for students to follow along and replicate what they see, improving retention and comprehension. Also, to explain muddiest content, we've all encountered those muddiest points in a lesson, concepts that are difficult to grasp and need additional clarification. Videos provide an excellent medium for revisiting these concepts by breaking them down into more digestible chunks or using visual aids to illustrate an explanation. The instructor can then clear up confusion and ensure students fully understand the material. We can use video to highlight the most important concepts. Videos allow us to emphasize key takeaways from a lesson. Whether through visuals, infographics, or direct narration, instructors can draw attention to the most important content. This helps students focus on what is essential, creates a clear, concise summary of the material for the students. Now let's take a look at the different types of videos that we use to achieve these goals. Each type has its own strengths to fit specific teaching needs. We have talking heads. A talking head video is a simple yet effective format where the instructor speaks directly to the camera, much like I am now. It's an excellent way to establish rapport with students and communicate important messages or summarize material. These videos are great for mini lectures, announcements, or even personal reflections. We have learning glass videos. The learning glass is a unique format where the instructor writes or draws on a glass board while facing the camera. This is especially useful for visual subjects like math or diagram-heavy topics. It allows the instructor to convey complex ideas while maintaining eye contact with the audience, which is the key to engaging them. We can do on-site videos. On-site videos take students into real-world context, whether it's a theater visit, a laboratory demonstration, or a fieldwork project. These videos help students make connections between theory and practice. We also have animated videos. Animation can bring abstract or highly technical content to life in a way that is visually engaging and easy to understand. Animations are a unique way to bring instructor presence or scenario-based learning into online education. They can simplify difficult ideas and allow for visual storytelling that's both entertaining and educational. We have a couple of specific use cases I want to share. We utilize video in almost every course we create and support. One of them is the Brewing Science program. We were able to record a time-lapse footage of actual installation of the tanks in the construction of our on-campus brewery. This provided an opportunity for students in the AU Brewing Science courses to understand what it takes to build one from scratch. This was a unique experience that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. Theater. Our team took video that we incorporated into a 360 immersive experience that allowed online students to see the inside of the AU Theater in a unique way and learn all about the various areas with explanations. without ever stepping foot on campus. It's pretty cool. Ag soil classes. We help demonstrate in the field scenarios that allow students to see specific geological areas and scientific examples that students wouldn't have had access to. This includes places like Providence Canyon, Georgia, and the inside of labs on campus that explain scientific equipment. These learning experiences provided demonstrations to students on how to properly use the equipment and sets them up for future success. We have a business program. It's a completer program. We often utilize the learning glass to record demonstrations of faculty teaching formulas for finance, demonstrating the meaning of graphs in marketing, and explanations of complex concepts and supply chain management. This helps clarify to students and ensures they receive an in-depth online experience. So, what is the future of video? AI-generated video. With the rise of AI technology, we're exploring how to create videos using virtual instructors or enhance material through lifelike animations. AI-generated videos have the potential to be a cost-effective and scalable solution. They can also be used to simulate real-world scenarios or create interactive environments for students to explore. As AI continues to advance, we're seeing the potential for even more personalized video content. Imagine a scenario where AI generates simulations based on real-world data, or where instructors can create a digital persona of themselves for students to interact with. These possibilities are absolutely exciting. I'm happy I got to share with you what a versatile and powerful tool video can be and how it enhances the learning experience.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Tiger Bytes. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. You can find us on all major platforms, and keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on Tiger Bytes.